Hello, everyone, boys and girls, Raider Nation, Bleacher Report watchers, YouTube watchers. After the fact, we're back. We took a little week hiatus because we're ironing out a little bit of kinks here on Bleacher Report. You've seen the changes. We're still trying to get things up and running here. Got a new camera, got a new computer. My name is Rodney. If you already knew that, thank you so much for coming back and watching another stream. I know people hate when I do this, but please let me know if you can hear and see me because this is kind of a new setup. Looks a lot better than it did a couple weeks ago, I'll tell you that much. Looks like everything's good on my end. Welcome back to Raiders Daily. You got Mo Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. You got me Thursday, Friday. I mean, what more could you ask? And we've actually got a lot of news today. Usually, and by the way, I see people in the chat. What's going on? How we doing? Make sure we're chatting live. Got questions? I will answer them. If you're watching after the fact on YouTube, I do have my own YouTube channel, ALLaBorde Raiders. Make sure we're commenting in that comment section as well. This is usually the dark times of Raider content creation because there's not a lot to talk about. Although with the combine coming up, and you'll see with like some shows on ESPN, NFL Network, and Rich Eisen, right? Rumors will start to trickle their way into the ears of insiders. Hello, how we doing? How we doing, Mom? That's my mom. Shout out, Mom. And you'll start to hear things because when you get 32 GMs in one place with scouts all over the place, things start to rise to the top rumor wise. Now, there's a couple things Raiders specific that we need to talk about. I made a video on this on my YouTube channel a little earlier. I just kind of reported on what was going on. Hello, Mom. But I didn't get my full take on that. That's going to be me right now today, elongating my thoughts on all this. Obviously, you saw the title of the stream. It's about Maxx Crosby and them working extremely hard with Max's representation to get a deal done. There's also James Palmer, fellow Bleacher Report streamer, NFL insider extraordinaire. I love that everyone's saying hi to my mom right now. I love this. Mentioned that we are very closely linked to, plug your ears, Raiders fans, Sam Darnold. I've already made my piece on with that. You know where I stand on that. We'll get into that in a second. Hot Mike user said this could be the biggest offseason for the Raiders this millennia. Don't disagree, but everybody can see me and hear me. Good, perfect. So let's talk about Maxx Crosby. And I know Bleacher Report editors, if you're watching this, you're going to clip this out, okay? I know, because the poll's going to go up, and people are going to read the title of the clip out and go, this guy wants to trade Maxx? Start right here. Insert right here. This is where the clip starts if you clip this out. I do not want to trade Maxx Crosby. That is the last thing on this earth, as a Raider fan, as a Raider compatriot, that I want to do, okay? I want to keep him on the team. February 8th, there was an article on Bleacher Report that suggested that along with Trey Hendrickson, that Maxx Crosby would be tied up in a lot of trade conversation throughout the entire offseason. Okay, that was 2 weeks ago. Not even. 12 days ago. Dan Graziano was one of the people, ESPN insider, that said as much. Maxx Crosby would be tied up with trade talk. Now, he didn't say the Raiders are offering Maxx Crosby out to people. He didn't say Maxx Crosby was looking for a trade. He said that Maxx Crosby's name would be in trade discussions. So people naturally took that as, well, he's on the block. He's going to get traded, right? And I could see why that leap in logic would happen. I do not want him to be traded. Today, or I think maybe yesterday, last night, another article was posted with a quote from the same insider that said Maxx Crosby would be tied up in trade talks, Dan Graziano. And he said, Maxx Crosby is the face of the Raiders franchise. He is a staple for Raider Nation. He's one of the best defensive players in the National Football League, and he expects the Raiders to get a deal done and for Maxx Crosby to sign an extension to be with the Raiders long term. Maxx Crosby has said on multiple podcasts he's a lifer. He's got it tatted on his body. He's just not going out of his way to make his opinions known anymore because he knows that sometimes that bites him in the rear end. And he's not going to play with no more guaranteed money. And he got all the guaranteed money from 2025 into 2024, which gave him a raise, and now there's no guaranteed money. And that's how the business works. So now Dan Graziano, 12 days after saying he's going to be tied up in trade talks, has said he's not going anywhere as of right now. Now, when I talked about that earlier on YouTube, I was surprised at the amount of people that said they should trade him. I want him gone. It wasn't the vast majority of people, but it was enough people for me to be taken aback a little bit. I don't know if it's because you feel as though we should just get more draft capital and save some more money. I don't know if it's because you don't like the way that he's been talking on these media outlets and Radio Row, which I said 100 times is the worst thing to be invented. Radio Row stinks. Unless Bleach Report was there, then it was awesome. I was very surprised by that. So I want to talk about the Bleacher Report audience right now, or the YouTube audience after the fact. Now, the YouTube audience can't vote in this poll, but the Bleacher Report audience can. And my poll question would be, would you trade Maxx Crosby? 3 options. Never. Return to the Jedi. For the right price, or I want him gone. Now, I would love to just figure out how to say this name. J.S. Elito. Jeslito. Unless a team offers 3 first-rounders, he isn't going anywhere. Now, look, I get it. The Godfather offer. Let me make you an offer you can refuse. I get it. Shout out to Marlon Brando. If there was an offer on the table, I would understand entertaining it. And I made the comparison. I'm a Utah Jazz fan. Walker Kessler is probably one of their top 1 or 2 commodities out there. And the Lakers were like, we got to go get him. We got to go get him. We got to go get him. We need a center. He's the guy. He's the guy. And Danny Ainge is like, we'll listen to every offer you give us. But if you don't give us 5 first-rounders and don't connect, it's not happening. Danny Ainge was able to get 5 first-round picks for Rudy Gobert and Walker Kessler. So it wasn't as if the Utah Jazz and Danny Ainge were putting his name out there. The Lakers were so desperate to have him that all this trade nonsense was coming about because of Walker Kessler. And that's what Dan Graziano was referring to when he said Maxx Crosby's name is going to be tied up in reports of trades. Max goes on Radio Row and says, we'll see what happens. We got to talk about it. Blah, blah, blah. 12 days later, Super Bowl's done. The blueprint for beating the Chiefs was shown again. Tom Brady showed it in 2020. Well, I guess Tom Brady didn't. The Tampa Bay Bucs defense did. And the Eagles of 2025 or 2024 have showed it. You got to get to the quarterback. 12 days later, Dan Graziano, the same person who says, I don't know, Max might be traded, is now saying he expects a deal to be done. I'm with you guys. 100% of the people that voted, and this might be the first time in Raiders Daily, Rodney ALLaBorde live stream history that we have 100% clarity on what the poll should be. 100%. I would never, ever trade Maxx Crosby because in the words of John Gruden, good pass rushers are hard to find. You got to focus on extending him, and I'll talk about what I think we should do in the offseason more tomorrow, same time, 9 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Pacific, because I laid out my entire plan of what I would do for the offseason, which is on YouTube, and it involves extending Maxx Crosby 3 years at least, finagling some of his guaranteed money like they did this year to have us actually save more money this season before paying a lot more in 26 and 27 if they do 3-year extension, maybe 85, 90 million, fully guarantee it. I would be much more focused on re-signing Malcolm Kuntz and K'Lavon Chaisson. there's a world in which you can convince me. I know Mo talked about this a couple days ago. For the right price, I'm down for a little nostalgia with Khalil Mack. Let's put him back in the AFC West where he belongs as a Raider. I don't hate it for the right price, man. I don't hate it for the right price. Now, I'm glad that everybody here is in lockstep that we should not trade Maxx Crosby. I'm going to read some of the comments here. Don't Khalil Mack us again. There you go. That's exactly right. And the difference is between John Gruden's regime then and Pete Carroll's regime now is that Pete came in and said, "This is not a rebuild. We got a timetable and it starts right now." John Gruden came in and was like, "Oh, we're going to rebuild." And I don't think he wanted to trade Max or Khalil Mack. He even said as much. What's funny is um, he was on his own podcast, his Barstool podcast with Maxx Crosby, and he was saying, "You guys didn't think I wanted Tom Brady, man? You think I wanted to trade Khalil Mack, man?" It was funny to hear him talk about all the things that people said about him. At the end of the day, he did trade Khalil Mack. Now, how cool would it be to extend Max? If Malcolm Kuntz wants too much, maybe you let him walk because, again, as good as he was that last year, he did get hurt. And you don't know if he's going to continue to do that. How cool would it be to have Wilkins up the middle, Maxx Crosby on one edge, and Khalil Mack on the other? Can somebody do me a favor and look up how many sacks Khalil Mack had this season? I think it was enough to maybe warrant giving him a little deal just to come back for one more year. I'm also a Pittsburgh Pirates fan, and Andrew McCutchen re-signing, I shed tears on his first plate appearance, and he's still not bad. He's still not bad. Re-sign Kuntz and Caleb on. Mack is too old. Maybe, hey, why not do all three? If you've got the money to do it. I saw someone say, "Hope you're an A-Rod fan for QB." If A-Rod comes in for the vet minimum, Russell Wilson style, $10 million instead of going to get Sam Darnold for $35 million, you have the money to get all three. That's why this offseason is going to be so interesting, because you're going to be able to put puzzle pieces in specific places depending on how much money you spend at the quarterback position, how much money you give to people in your own organization, right? So we'll see what happens. I'm going to take a drink of water away from the mic because I got yelled at one time for drinking into the mic. Not by Bleacher Report, but by the fans, and I get it. It's a disgusting sound. Okay. So next thing I want to talk about. This is and we're going to end this poll right here. Unpin poll. Unpin poll. Next thing I want to talk about. James Palmer. I think this was 2 days ago. He's doing his weekly show, bi-weekly show, a couple times a week. He's on. And he's an NFL insider. He's got his ear to the pavement. He's listening to everything. And he mentioned Sam Darnold, and he brought him up, and he said, the consensus with Sam Darnold is that there's more and more people that think there's a world in which he signs with the Raiders if he leaves the Vikings, and that there's mutual interest there. Now, look, I completely understand being weary of Sam Darnold. I've made my point about signing him. I wouldn't do it for $55 million like the franchise tag would be, but I would sign him. I think that with the system in place, we're going to run the ball and play good defense. I think he could have a lot of success. But I don't want to spend 20 more minutes of this live stream talking about something that I already have been saying for weeks and days and months. You either like him or you don't. But when James Palmer talked about this, he said kind of like offhandedly or whatever, he said, well, the Raiders think they're close. I don't know why they think they're close, but the Raiders think they're close, so they're going to go after Sam Darnold. And that kind of stopped me in my tracks. Now, I'm not taking any shots at James. He's my Bleacher Report guy. He knows probably more football in his, what do they say, in his pinky than I know in my whole body or whatever. Or he's forgotten more about football than I'll ever know. Maybe one day I'll get to that. What does he mean by the Raiders think they're close? We don't think they're as close as they think. What is close? I need someone to define the Raiders think they're close. Close to winning a Super Bowl? Now, if that's what he's referring to, I would agree with you, James, 'cause the Raiders are not close to winning a Super Bowl. And if that's what they think, then they're probably wrong. Are they close to winning 9 or more games, assuming it's not an 18-game schedule and it's 9 wins that has you have a winning season? I do think they're close to turning this team into winning more than 8 games. I do think that. Is close just being able to compete because they kinda did that last year. Like, look, they didn't win a lot of games. I think we're all in agreement, though. We're all in lockstep that if they started Aiden O'Connell the whole season, they would have won what, 5, 6-ish games, maybe 7. If they started Aiden O'Connell the whole season and had this coaching staff, they would have won like 7 or 8 games. So I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to add Sam Darnold and all your draft picks and every free agent that you're going to sign and win 9 games. Their timetable is we're going to compete right away. Pete Carroll in his first season with the Seahawks went 7-9. Now they happened to win the division with 7 wins, but then they won a playoff game. And I expect the Raiders to be somewhere around that next year. 7, 8, 9, 10 wins, look better, a better football product. And I think it's completely reasonable to think that in terms of that, they are close. So my question to you is this. What's a successful season for the Raiders in 2025? And we'll get back to Sam Darnold in a second. But there's a lot of this talk again about being close. Well, what is close? To me, close is somewhere in between being that says just compete. Being competitive and winning 9 games. I, I am I crazy? Like tell me in the comments or tell me, after the fact in the comments on YouTube. Am I crazy to think that we're close to being able to just compete like a normal football team again? I mean, we won 9 games or 8 games with Jimmy Garoppolo and Aiden O'Connell with Josh McDaniels and AP. We won 8 games because our defense is awesome. And it's the same people on defense, and we got a little bit better with Wilkins. So tell me, like, vote in this poll and then tell me in the chat right here, what are our thoughts on how close we are? Hot Mike User says 7 wins next year is a success. Okay, so you want 3 more wins than this year. I would say I would be closer to 8 or 9 for it to be a success for me, just because I feel like we could have won 6 games this year if Aiden just started the whole season. Please do not comment, oh, he thinks Aiden is the Messiah. No. I want to move on from Aiden O'Connell. I'm ready to move on. I get it. Yeah, I just think that we would have won like 6 or 7 games with them. So I don't see how we can just completely change all the skill pieces in the quarterback position and then be okay with 7 wins. Now, if we win 7 games and 10 of our losses, 9 of them were 1 possession games, okay. That feels like a successful season. Just win SL. Wild card would be a success. So you want to make the playoffs. Successful season. See, we all have different definitions of what is close. And my mom says I'm good with 7 wins. Well, Mom, I want 8 or 9. And then Jay Solito. Jay Solito. Am I saying something inappropriate? Where we go? Let's just get to 500. Yeah, I think somewhere around there. I don't expect to have a Houston Texans / Washington Commanders type change, right? But you never know. So look, I've already given my take, and this is crazy. This. By the way, this is history with these polls. Now we got an even 33.33% split. Just compete, win 9 games, make the playoffs, and that's kind of what I was getting at. Everybody has their different definitions of what is actually close for the Raiders. I would say 8 to 9 wins is a success for me. You can convince me of 7 if They all look competitive, but I would prefer 8 or 9. Double it up, Pete Carroll. With all that being said, I've given my 2 cents on Sam Darnold. I would sign him. I think he's still really good. I think 2 really bad games at the end of this year, which isn't all his fault. Gets sacked 9 times. His right tackle was out for most of the season. I don't think that completely, you know, destroys what he did to win 14 games. I'm not going to get into the specifics because people have heard me talk about Sam Darnold too much, and somehow I become a Sam Darnold fanboy. I don't know how this happened, but it is what it is. I'll wear it with pride. What I do want to say about Sam Darnold specifically is that people said 2 things to me a month ago when I suggested, should we sign him? The first thing was, well, we don't have the offense in place. Well, we checked that box off theoretically with Chip Kelly. He's making $6 million to coach the offense. Highest paid offensive coordinator in the league right now. So that on paper is gone. Everyone wants to hype up Chip Kelly. These are the same people that said, we need a good offensive system for Sam Darnold to thrive. Okay. That's number one. The second thing everyone told me is, well, the Vikings offense, the Vikings team, he was in such a good spot. They're loaded. They're loaded. Okay. Let's just talk about the Vikings for a second. Their offensive line is okay when Christian Darrisaw, who was the first pick that they took like 3 years ago or 2 years ago, is completely healthy. He was out for most of the season. TJ Hawkinson, their starting star tight end, top 5, 6 tight end, was out for most of the season. They were working with Aaron Jones, who's good, but was in and out all season. Justin Jefferson, who is one of the top 3 receivers in the league, and he might not be 3 or 2. Awesome. What's the other guy? Jordan Addison, stud, good number 2. That's it. Their defense is good. It's fine. But what James Palmer said, the reason why they might let Sam Darnold walk is because they have too many holes to fill on the roster to justify keeping him for a specific price. They're not going to overpay for him because they need to fill out other pieces on their roster. So the NFL Insider, that said, Sam Darnold might sign with the Raiders, said the reason why they're letting him go is not because they believe in J.J. McCarthy, although I do think they do. Although, if J.J. McCarthy ever comes close to winning 14 games, that will be the more unlikely scenario, but it is what it is. Everyone is telling me, well, they'll just go with J.J. and he'll win 14 games. No idea if that's true. James Palmer said they're going to let him go because they have too many holes to fill in the roster. But it's funny, everyone was telling me the Minnesota Vikings are the greatest show on turf meets the 85 Bears. And Kevin O'Connell's Bill Walsh meets Bill Belichick meets Dan Campbell meets Josh McDaniels offensive play calling. Look, they're good. I'm not taking shots at the Vikings. Who I'm taking shots at are people who are claiming, well, Sam Darnold was lifted by the heavenly nature of Kevin O'Connell and the Purple People Eaters 2.0. Kevin O'Connell's a good play caller. They have some good weapons out there. They are nowhere near as talented as the Detroit Lions or the Philadelphia Eagles. Some of these teams are on a higher level than the Minnesota Vikings. And now with Chip Kelly as our OC, with $100 million in cap space, with Pete Carroll, who's notorious for running the football and playing awesome defense, you're telling me Sam Darnold couldn't come in and win 10 games and throw for 28 touchdowns? Because if he threw for 28 touchdowns this season, that would be the best quarterback season that we've had since what? 2016 Derek Carr MVP votes. Is anything that I said factually incorrect? Because most of what I said was not opinion-based. It was the reality. They might have to let Sam go because they signed him to a 1-year, $10 million deal, and he's going to be a free agent. They're not going to franchise tag him for $53 million because they have too many holes to fill on the roster that everyone's telling me is the reason why he was so good. Were they always supposed to win 14 games? That's what I keep saying to people. When J.J. McCarthy got hurt and they named Sam the starter, although he was going to start either way, everybody thought, what? Good luck, Kevin O'Connell. 6 games max, you're going to win. How about 14? I'm sorry, guys. You might not like it. You might not think that I'm right in saying that we should go after Sam Darnold for the right price. But what are you going to do when Pete Carroll and John Spytek and Tom Brady and Chip Kelly agree that Sam Darnold should be the next quarterback of the Las Vegas Raiders? But you can call me four eyes and a moron all you want. I understand that. I'm just a guy talking to you through the internet, right? Through the skies, through the airwaves. Pete Carroll's a Super Bowl champion, national champion. Chip Kelly is a national champion. Coach Will Howard to win. Tom Brady, ever heard of him? 7 rings. I don't know. I'm just throwing that out there. And the last thing I'll say, so Jay Soleto says Brady and Spy won't bring him in for that kind of money. Don't disagree. They're going to be smart. But if they believe in him, they will go after him. They're going to do their darndest. And maybe Tom Brady can work his magic and say, look, Sam, you can go to the Giants for $55 million and lose. Or you can come to the Raiders for 38, 40 and win. And maybe that's the difference between getting him for 40 and the Giants getting him for 55. And you say they have a plan and it won't include Sam. Well, we just don't know that. Here's what I will say. Does anybody know, and this would be awesome if somebody actually did know this, does anybody know in the media who was the biggest supporter of Sam Darnold coming out and who still continues to be the biggest supporter of Sam Darnold? It's a famous radio TV host. I'm going to give you a second as I take another swig of water to guess before I say it out loud. Let me know. Who is it? What's your guesses? What's your guesses? Who is it? Who is it? And by the way, they're letting him go because they know J.J. McCarthy's better. If J.J. McCarthy ever one time throws for 35 touchdowns, uh, they'll be throwing a parade even if they never win a playoff game. The odds of J.J. McCarthy throwing for 35 touchdowns in one season and winning 14 games are so astronomically low. They do not think, boom, hot mic user, you completely stole the show. Colin Cowherd. Love him or hate him, he likes Sam Darnold a lot. Why do I bring this up? Because Jay Solito says they have a plan and it won't include Sam. Let me throw this out there. Colin Cowherd said on his YouTube show, and by the way, Colin Cowherd has said we're not that far off from competing. And he said this after talking to who during Super Bowl weekend? Chip Kelly, our offensive coordinator. He ran into Chip Kelly in New Orleans. And since that day, he's been saying the Raiders might not be as bad as you think. And what he tweeted out, you can go find this tweet on Colin Cowherd's Twitter. He said, just ran into new Raiders offensive coordinator Chip Kelly. He's got me fired up about the quarterback situation in Las Vegas. And who does Colin Cowherd like? Sam Darnold. I'm not saying his opinion is correct. I'm just letting you know this. For the people who are saying we're not going to go after Sam Darnold, he talked to Chip Kelly and now he's all in on the Raiders. I don't know. Hot mic user, he's going to be Carson Palmer 2.0. How, in what world? Carson Palmer was like 33 on his couch, came in and still didn't start for Kyle Bowler for a week because he had no arm strength. And they traded like a first-round pick for him. This is not that. This is not that, I promise you. Now, look, do I think Sam Darnold is going to be the Raiders quarterback in 2025? Maybe. I don't know. But I will make a prediction. It's going to be very funny to see how many people come around to it by the time the preseason starts. Trade for JJ and Stafford. JJ sits for 2 years and learns. I don't think you have enough draft picks to do that. You're not going to be able to pick anybody. I think you have to either trade for JJ or trade for Stafford. I'd rather trade. By the way, I'd rather trade for Matthew Stafford than sign Sam Darnold. If I'm keeping it a $150, that's what I would actually do. But in terms of like, well, we're not going to go after Sam Darnold. There's a lot of smoke. Colin Cowherd saying, I can't wait to see what the Raiders do at quarterback after running into Chip Kelly, when Colin Cowherd has been the biggest supporter of Sam Darnold since birth. I might have sneaky cracked the code there. Colin's the guy who said Jalen Hurts wasn't a franchise quarterback. He's a moron. Okay, again, I'm not telling you that he's right to be excited about it. I'm not giving my opinion on his opinion. I'm just telling you the sequence of events that happened. He talked to Chip Kelly. He's now excited to see what we're going to do at quarterback. Maybe because Chip Kelly said, hey, we're going after Sam Darnold. I'm just telling you that there's a world in which that conversation happened. You might disagree or agree with how he feels, but this has nothing to do with his opinions on our roster. It's the conversation that was had probably about Sam Darnold, and I probably just blew up the Raiders spot. I probably shouldn't have said any of that, but that was just online detective work. You could probably do that yourself. I don't have any inside sources. Please don't come at me, John Spytek. I'm sorry. Last thing I'll say. Hi, Dar, and my Aunt Dar's here too. And she's calling me Rod, even though she doesn't call me Rod in real life, but that's okay. We'll let it slide. Last thing I'll say. We've talked about competing. We've talked about getting a quarterback, trading for whatever. I just thought this would be interesting to wrap this up with, because I asked you what's a successful season for the Raiders in 2025. We were at a complete split, although by the time we ended, it was 9 wins minimum. I just want to leave you with this before I hop off here. How close do you think the Raiders are to actually competing? And what is it going to take? Is it going to take this just one solid offseason? Is it going to take multiple years? Or is it just get the quarterback right? Now, if it's just get the quarterback right, it might take a little bit longer, because we might not be in a position to draft somebody like a Shore Sanders or a Cam Ward, right? And by the way, even if we did sign Sam Darnold, Spytek is going to cancel you. Yeah, probably. Even if we did sign Sam Darnold, that doesn't stop us from drafting a quarterback. We play it out for 2 years. Oh, it could be my Uncle Mark. I didn't think about that either. Well, it's one of them. Hello, either one. What was I just saying? Oh, we could play it out. That's definitely not Mark. We could play it out for 2 years and then get rid of him and then start Jackson Dart or Shedeur Sanders. They are not mutually exclusive. You can still draft a quarterback even if you sign Sam Darnold, which they, newsflash, will do. If they trade for Stafford, sign Aaron Rodgers, get Russell Wilson or Justin Fields, trade for Geno Smith, anybody, they will still draft a quarterback. It still could be Shedeur. And he could sit and learn, because I'm pro sit and learn. He's not going to get a 5-year deal. And even if it is a 5-year deal, it'll be fake. It'll be 3 real years and then 2 fake ones, like they did with Derek Carr, with Josh McDaniels. It's not going to happen. He's going to get what he gets, or he's going to go back to Minnesota. And by the way, would you rather have Tua Tagovailoa for 60 or Sam Darnold for 35? Think about that. I think we're one solid offseason away. I don't think it's going to take years. I don't think we can just get the quarterback, because think about the Bengals. The Bengals have the quarterback, and they won like 8 games. And he threw for 658 million yards and 100 touchdowns and no picks. And they couldn't make the playoffs because they lost week 1 to the New England Patriots. It takes more than the quarterback, which is why I do believe with the system in place that Sam Darnold could probably be successful. All right, I'm going to stop talking about it now. Tomorrow, 9 p.m. Eastern, we are going to discuss my complete outlined plan. If you want to get a preview of that, it's on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for watching, whether you're watching on Bleacher Report or after the fact on YouTube. I'll see you tomorrow. And then next week, same time. If you're watching on YouTube, please be sure to subscribe. It is free after no charge to you. I love you guys. And I'll see you next time.